concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up? Oh, hang on. Oh, I'm taking my shoes off. You didn't need to know that. But since I started the scream kind of grunting, I didn't want anyone to get the wrong impression. I was just taking my shoes off. What's up, guys? Oh, y'all ready to stream? Let's do some Q&A. What should we talk about today? I don't even know. What's happened in the world of drones? Anything? Get anything big? What do you use to discharge your pasks? Asks the O Kaneka. Usually I just use my charger, but I do have a big wire wound resistor that I use to discharge my packs. There we go. That's it. Q&A. Jackson Bamsey, am I doing a giveaway? I am doing a giveaway. Not on the stream tonight, Jackson. But if you look at my editorial calendar here, let's see, tomorrow, oh no, sorry, Tuesday, the video is already scheduled. Wednesday, I will do my new product roundup and giveaway for the month of February, and it's going to be a big one. There is a thing, yeah, 3 Fresca stream, very good. You're counting the Frescas. You sneaky guys. You're not supposed to see how many Frescas I've got. I apologize to anyone who is triggered by the sound of slurping or swallowing. I know that some people are really upset about it. I used to know a guy who would be driven to murderous rage by the sound of anyone chewing food, just normal chewing. I don't I'm sorry, when you do a 2-hour live stream, you can't. They're like, someone was like, just don't. How unprofessional! Just don't drink on stream. And I'm like, you can't talk for 2 hours without drinking. You can't do it. Your mouth will get dry. So maybe I can do it quieter. Anyway, what's the best fix for the Larva X motor breaking from the frame? I don't know about that, FPV CH19. On the Larva X, you can print a TPU spacer that goes in between the flight controller and the VTX, and that is what I would recommend doing. But as far as the motor, that's probably a fundamental issue with the design of the frame, and get a new frame. Equality, what cautions would you offer when flying in the snow? Definitely conformal code everything, but not everything, because some things break when you conformal code them. Is Stinger Swarm here? Oh, Stinger Swarm is here. Hold on, I got to tag him as a moderator. Got the right guy. Stinger Swarm's a moderator now. People ask, how do you get to be a moderator? And you gotta, I mean, yeah, if I know you and I want to personally make sure I see your messages. How much do I need in Super Chat to fix your ESC? Stinger Swarm, kudos to you for... Stinger Swarm had a problem where he flashed JESC, and now his ESC is toasted, and he's trying to fix it. The best I could do for you, Stingy, is try to get you in touch with Joe Lucid. I can try that. But Joe Lucid is the guy you need to talk to. You're deep past an area where I appreciate your confidence, but it's misplaced. What breaks when you conformal code it? Equality. Buttons. Anything that conformal coding makes sure that things don't have electrical conductivity. So if you like a button that needs to have conductivity, Moderator Squad. Look at all the mods saying hello. Anything that needs electrical conductivity will break if you conformal code it. So buttons, plugs, the USB port, that kind of stuff. Going back to the giveaway, I'm going to be doing a special giveaway on Wednesday when I do my new product roundup giveaway. Last month, I gave away $400 in ISDT Q8 chargers. That was a new product. This month, I think it's pretty obvious what the hot new product is. No, we are not going to spend all live stream talking about it because we did that last live stream, so I think we got that out of the way. But there's a thing I did a little while back when I'm curious about market research. When you ask people, which would you rather have, Fat Shark Bite Frost or DJI? And what I did is I asked people to put their money where their mouth is by doing a giveaway and saying, in this giveaway, you can have either one or the other. You pick. And then I give away some of them, and we'll see which one most people pick. So I think I'm going to do that in this Wednesday's giveaway and see which one people pick. Should be interesting. But unfortunately, the ISDT Q8 charger was like $60, so I gave away 5 of them. It was $400. $80, 400. Shit, math is hard. 5 times, it was only $350. Okay, fine. But these transmitters are like $200. So if I want to give away a few of them, it's probably going to cost me a little bit of money. But that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. Because I've been watching Mr. Beast. Do you guys know Mr. Of course you do. If you're on YouTube, you know Mr. Beast. And he makes a lot of money and gets a lot of subscribers by giving away money. And I thought, well, I should do that. Maybe I could be like Mr. Beast. Let's talk about, speaking of news of the day, and I will start getting to your questions. I've already answered a few of your questions. Pineapple Man, I will also be doing a Patreon giveaway. What I usually do, Pineapple Man, is for patrons, I look around and I have leftover stuff that I've reviewed or other stuff, and I kind of clean off my bench, and I give that stuff to patrons over on my Patreon page. But then I on the same day of the month, I do the new product roundup, and I give like 3 or 5 or however many of a new product. And patrons can enter that too. There's a little secret. The Patreon giveaways are not exclusive to patrons. It's actually against the law in the United States to do a giveaway where people have to pay to join the giveaway. Do you know what they call a giveaway where you pay to join the giveaway? They call it a lottery or a raffle. And those are actually heavily regulated to keep people honest. So a while, I used to do giveaways on Patreon only to my patrons. And Patreon actually came and said, sorry, that's not legal. So my Patreon giveaways, you can enter them even if you're not a patron. You just have to come back and check the page to find out when I announce it, because the patrons get an email notification and you don't. But anyone can enter it. Anyway. So I will be doing that giveaway too. But let's talk briefly about this video that I released. This video where I literally got up in the middle of the night. I had gone to bed at around 9:30. That's when I put my kids to bed, and then I go to bed too because I'm old and a loser. Okay, get it out of your systems. And I was laying in bed thinking about which FrSky receivers were compatible with which FrSky firmwares. No joke, that's what was happening. And I got out of bed and I put my clothes on and went downstairs and I made this video. And it's really silly, isn't it? The reason I made that video was because so many of you guys were asking me, I've got a FrSky X Lite Pro and a Beta 95X and I can't bind them. And I'm not sure whether the problem is that you're doing it wrong, because you might be, or whether the problem is that your firmware just won't bind. So I wanted to have a reference to say, look, if this, then that, and now you know. And if you're annoyed by it, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed too, so yeah. But at least now you know. Okay. So check that video out if you've got a FrSky receiver and you're having trouble binding it. It may be related to the firmwares. License to drive? Sure, buddy. License, I'm risking talking about the Tango 2 again, but I don't want to do that. But there were some people who said, all these guys who got the Tango 2, they're just like shilling. None of them are honest. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true, by the way. Just because you get a product for free doesn't mean you can't be honest and objective about it. There are a few notable times I didn't get a product and then I make a big stink about it because why not? But lots of times I do get products sent to me and I feel like I'm still fair with them. So, but there are a few guys out there who definitely stand out, and License to Drive is asking if I'll call them out and or shout them out. And surely the people who stood out in this list were Gal Kremer. Gal Kremer has really, like, even though he got something for free, you can still watch his review and feel he did a good job with it. Painless 360 never feels like he's shilling to me. Mute FPV, for people who hate me talking for hours and hours at a time, check out Mute FPV. He does these great little reviews and tutorials and tests with no talking at all. That's his gig. And who do you want to know whose review of the Tango 2 I was most excited to watch? I'm going to let you, I'm going to pause and I'm going to let you guess in the chat. Whose review of the Tango 2 was I most excited to watch? Bot Grinder? I did watch Bot Grinder's review. Stingy is the obvious choice because Stingy has worked with it the longest. Bot Grinder, yeah. Stingy. UAV Futures. G'day! I love Stu's video, but it was Kebab. You guys, the guys who guessed Kebab are right. I knew. I looked at Kebab's video and it was 10 minutes long, and I said, I guarantee you, if I watch this video, I will find out the three things. I will find out one thing about this radio that I didn't already know, and three things about it that Kebab hates that I hadn't thought of yet. It was Kebab. I watched other ones, but Kebab is, yeah. Yeah, then I watched his review, and then I watched his 30-minute live stream while I was running. Yeah. Can you upgrade an ACCST transmitter to Access? Asked Joshua Lefto. No, you cannot. Access requires the ISRM chipset. ACCST has the ACCST chipset, and you cannot, the XJT, anyway, whatever. You can't upgrade it. There was a time where some people thought it was possible that FrSky would release firmware that would enable access on the older radios, but they said that the interface was not fast enough, and they would have to slow it down. And so they could make it compatible, but it would be slower. I feel like Stingy's review of the Tango 2 gives you this deep insight into the development process because he was testing it for so long. Kebab Leven van Vilthoven says Kebab didn't seem very critical about it. I mean, I feel like Kebab really got to the point. He was positive about the things that, I mean, I agree with the things Kebab was positive about. I was like, no, I think he's right about that. But then the things he was critical about, I was like, yeah. Anyway. What's my opinion on F7 flight controller, Slade McMichael? These days, F7 is the way to go if you can, just for future proofing, in my opinion. F4 is not dead yet, but F4 is sort of on the way out. And thank God, because that whole problems with UARTs and inversion need to go. Yeah. Yeah, Snowman's Man says he wants to see some Cinewood footage of me running. I don't think anybody wants to see that. I'm up to week 4 of Couch to 5K. I've been on week 4 for like 3 weeks. I'm almost done with week 4. NC92 asks, when is my EV300D review coming out? Did I measure the latency? So my EV300D and my Foxeer Wildfire review are going to be pushed off to next week because I found a parking garage I can test in, but it's only available on the weekends. It's too busy during the week, and I want to do the testing in a parking garage with lots of multipath. So that's going to have to get pushed to next week. More FPV car footage, Adam Hassan wants to know. You're talking about the Emax Interceptor. I love that thing. Unfortunately, I took it to Thanksgiving, and one of my nephews stepped on it, and it's broken, and I haven't gotten it fixed. So, there you go. Stingy, want to go run? I don't know. Maybe I'll be up to 5K by summer. We'll see about that. What's going on over here in the... Moreno MDZ wants to know if I slept well after making that video yesterday. Yeah, I slept okay. Would a 1000 microfarad 35-volt capacitor be better for a 4-in-1 ESC than a 470 microfarad 35-volt? In general, the more capacitance, the better. I mean, there's a point of diminishing returns where it just flattens off. So, but I think 1000 microfarad for me, for a 5-inch quad, 1000 microfarad for me is like the minimum. I mean, I say that, but some of my quads don't even have capacitors. So, but if I was going to put a capacitor on, I think 1000 microfarads is where I want to be. I think above 1000 microfarads, you have diminishing returns on 4S. On 6S, I think you might benefit from even more than that. But on 4S, I feel like 1000 microfarads is a good place to be. On 4S, you might not even need it, though. So, if I got an ESC and it came with a 470 microfarad capacitor, I would probably either not use it or just use it and never think about it again. But if you have 1000, go for it. What props do you recommend for a beginner, asks Stanced Reflex. I think a 5x4.3 or a 5x4.5 with about a 2400-ish kV motor is a great place for a beginner to be. It's hard to go wrong. Yeah, but that's where I would say to start. Am I going to get my hands on a Radiomaster T16S? Yes. Props off, yes. I definitely am. They are sending it. Chinese New Year and the coronavirus have slowed things down, but I will be getting them. It's going to be pretty slick. Lancer asks, Remote ID says that existing aircraft can be modified to provide remote ID. How does this work since we can't use non-approved FAA hardware? Well, let's talk about that. So what remote ID... First of all, the FAA says that based on manufacturers' estimates, 93% or something of 107 registered drones can be software modified to support remote ID. There is so much wrong with that statement. I don't even know where to start. Number one, no one has actually vetted this claim. It sounds to me like they went to the manufacturers and said, hey, DJI, how many of your drones, you think you probably could get them to work with remote ID? 97%? Okay. no commitment there. There's no actual commitment. Yes, definitely we will do it. They were just like, hey, we estimate probably. Read the wording. That's how it reads to me. But then they're 107 registered drones. So, okay, what percentage of all SUAS in America, and bear in mind, that's not just multi-rotors, drones, all SUAS, including fixed wing, foamy planes, everything. What percentage of all SUAS in America, a remote controlled flight test foam board glider, what percentage of those are 107 registered? Not a lot. Like less than 10%? I don't know what the number is. It's definitely a small number. So even if you take at face value that 93% of existing 107 registered drones could be retrofit to support remote ID, that's still almost none of the actual SUAS in America. Okay, but then how do they get modified to provide remote ID? The assumption here, Lancer, is that the drone already has the hardware to do the things that remote ID requires, and it will just need a software upgrade to make it work. And for some DJI drones, for example, that may be true. But how do you, Lancer, will not be retrofitting any of your drones with remote ID? That will not happen. Number one, that will not happen because a remote ID compliant drone cannot be built by an amateur builder. It has to come from an FAA approved manufacturer. A manufacturer who has gone to the FAA and said, here are the procedures that we are going to use to make sure that our drones are compliant and that nobody can circumvent this stuff. Nobody can, yeah. And the FAA goes, okay, you are blessed. And not just you are blessed, but this specific drone is blessed. So you will not be doing that, and you will not be retrofitting any of your existing aircraft to meet remote ID, not under the current wording. You will be flying your existing aircraft at only approved flying sites until they all disappear, which is explicitly what the FAA wants to happen. Okay. Here's the other thing, though. You're just going to keep flying your drones and no one will care. Unless you do something really dumb and they crack down on you. For now, at least, you're just going to keep... Well, even if this goes through, you probably won't notice and you'll just break the law. Just like you're probably breaking the law right now and don't even know it. Anyway. If you're under 250 grams, Matthew Walsh, then you are fine. That is true. Toothpick class are not affected because toothpicks are under 250 grams. David Heinmiller, no. The National Forest can regulate the takeoff and landing of any drone regardless of weight. It's the FAA that has decided to exempt 250 grams and under from their regulations, but these rules that say you can't fly in a national forest doesn't matter the weight. Halbach Array versus standard brushless motors, asks Phantom FPV. Halbach Array, yes. I can think of one vendor who made motors with a Halbach Array. A Halbach Array, I'm not an expert, but it's a special arrangement of the magnets that directs more of the magnetic flux inside the ring. So if you think about a magnet, right? Think about a bar magnet. Magnetic flux lines are this side and this side. But if you think about a motor bell, any magnetic flux outside is wasted. When you want the magnetic flux inside, going through the coils. So a Halbach Array directs more of the magnetic flux into the stator volume and creates basically a stronger motor, maybe a more efficient motor. I'm not sure. The real question I have, Phantom, about the Halbach Array is, does the motor actually have a Halbach Array, or is it just marketing bullshit? Pardon my language, parents. Is it just marketing BS? So there was a vendor, it was ZMX, I think, that had motors that were supposed to have a Halbach Array in the magnets. And, I mean, they make good motors, but did they, really, were they a Halbach Array? I'm not so sure about that. But yes, there's definitely an advantage there. I'm reading a comment about 250-gram exemption. Jay Larson says in the Discord, thank you for being a patron, Jay Larson. If you guys want to join my Discord server, become a patron. Link in the video description for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I earned it. Jay Larson says, TBS seems to be the closest possible company to be able to create a remote ID system for FPV drones. I mean, Jay Larson, if you talk about FPV drones, I think there's no question that TBS is one of the premier R&D houses in the FPV industry. There are other companies that do R&D, like T-Motor makes great motors, right? Free Sky makes great radios. But as far as drone electronics and navigation and kind of like just the whole package, I don't think anybody else has the whole package like TBS does. Maybe Lumineer comes close. Lumineer has a lot of stuff. Lumineer mostly seems to OEM their stuff, though. Not so much do like original creative work, not to take anything away from Lumineer. So TBS, in that sense, TBS definitely could be someone who creates a remote ID system. Yeah, I agree with that statement, Jay Larson. The problem is this. The current proposal does not provide for retrofitting of remote ID capability to an existing aircraft. The entire aircraft needs to be approved. There needs to be a certificate of compliance with a serial number on it and various other ins and outs. But basically, the model that the FAA is working under is that there is an aircraft, a DJI Mavic Pro, and now you're going to sell thousands of these. And so you get it stamped. Your DJI Mavic Pro is remote ID approved. And now you sell a bunch of them. But if you say, what about this one-off that I built? That would fall under the academic and research exemption. But I bet you they're going to be pretty freaking stingy with those. And you won't just be able to say, hey, I'm flying drones. Can I have some exemptions, please? I don't see that happening. Simon Saucy, that is an Xbox controller on the desk. I actually played some DRL with this Xbox controller earlier today because on this computer, it's been so long since I played a simulator, my Windows drivers are effed up. And I haven't fixed them. So I played some DRL with an Xbox controller. Go figure. 7 Game Dog still can't get his voltage to show in the DJI goggles for Cadex Vista. 7 Game Dog, you got to get the MSP connection working right. Remember, TX to RX and RX to TX. Pardon me for burping on stream. That is the inevitable effect of drinking on stream, and we're all human beings here, folks. Just get it. Terri Driver, am I going to buy a Tango 2 and review it? Terri Driver, I have purchased a Tango 2 on pre-order. Whether I'll review it is tough because I know there's demand for a review, but at the same time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, for a month later, whenever it gets done, so many people have already reviewed it. I kind of am like, I don't really want to be like the last guy in line to say, look, it's got a screen and it's got, but I might review it. I might. I'm going to buy it anyway. Yeah, roll back your driver. I know. I've been telling everybody how to fix this problem. Now I have the problem. Wraith502 says, so manufacturers like Armatan won't be FAA compliant? Well, here's the thing, Wraith. I'm not going to talk about any specific manufacturer, but as I read the NPRM, I'm not a lawyer, but I've put a lot of thought into this and I've talked to a lot of people. There are all these regulatory hurdles that a manufacturer needs to jump through before they can legally sell a remote ID compliant drone. Because the FAA wants to make sure that somebody doesn't just put a drone out there that's like, yeah, we're remote ID compliant. Really? Okay. And then just break the law and do whatever you want. So you have to go, and the FAA has to validate this design. They have to validate your procedures. And then there's all this paperwork you have to do, this, certificate of compliance with a serial number, and you have to keep records for 2 years. And there's all these hurdles you have to jump through. Now, could Armatan decide that they want to jump through those hoops? Maybe. And if they did, then Armatan could say the new Chameleon FAA edition with remote ID compliant hardware. And they could sell that. They could do it. But there's no question that a lot of vendors are not going to be able to afford to jump through those hoops and are going to simply leave the U.S. market. I think that's inevitable. And the sad thing about that is this. I could see a scenario where race day quads can no longer sell flight controllers and motors and stuff. I could imagine that happening. I hope it doesn't happen. But they go out of business, and now everybody just buys that junk from Banggood because they don't care. And so this NPRM, this ruling, remote ID ruling, I think there's a chance that it will really, really hurt the American drone industry. And that's really too bad. What if the FAA compliant quad needs repairing? Flujar Bong asks. You can get parts from the manufacturer, but you can't, if you break a piece, you have to get the part from the manufacturer as part of the kit. That's how it's being interpreted now. Obviously, the rules are not in effect yet, so that will remain to be seen. The best, Subransu Mishras, people can say they are buying for flying indoors. Nope. There was a guy who emailed the FAA to ask, what about indoor drones? And the FAA said that this was just someone answering emails, but basically they said that only remote ID compliant, listen, follow me through this logic. In order to be remote ID compliant, you have to report your GPS location in real time. If you turn on a drone that is remote ID compliant and it cannot get a GPS lock, it will not allow you to take off. So now let's say you buy a drone and it's remote ID compliant, and now you take it indoors and you're like, no worries. Oops. Well, you can't take it off because it can't get a GPS lock. So just build your own. Well, okay, but I feel like the FAA's goal is to make it impossible for you to build your own. Because if you can build your own and fly it indoors, you can just build your own and fly it outdoors, and that is exactly what they do not want. I know, Bobcat FPV, I know. Yeah, they don't regulate indoors. You are right about that. Hold on. Boom. Check this out. This is Coldstream's 3D and VR. FAA confirms that remote ID NPRM eliminates most indoor flight. This is not a joke. They've, yeah, okay. As of January 14th, an FAA official acknowledges the FAA cannot regulate indoor airspace, but it has not provided a solution to the restriction imposed by only permitting the sale of compliant aircraft that require GPS to fly. Parse that carefully. The FAA's notice of proposed rulemaking concerning standards for the use of remote identification on small unmanned aircraft has the side effect of eliminating nearly all indoor flight of compliant commercially made and sold aircraft greater than 0.55 pounds. This is because compliant aircraft cannot fly unless they have a GPS signal, and most indoor locations lack a GPS signal. Think about that. This is why people who say, I'll just build my own and blah, blah, blah. These aircraft cannot fly without a GPS signal. There is no override. There is no, well, just this once. And there certainly is no, I'll just slap a remote ID transponder onto my existing drone. Because if you can slap it on, you can take it off. And that means it's not compliant. in an email to me. This guy's not just making this up. This email came straight from some drone at the FAA, but it did come from the FAA. The FAA's Office of Rulemaking confirmed this is the case. On the 14th, an official acknowledges they cannot regulate indoor airspace, but they have not offered a solution to the can't fly if no GPS signal for all commercially built and sold small UAS. How does this occur? The NPRM requires only certified remote ID capable craft are sold in the U.S. 2 years after the rule takes effect. It requires transmission of the GPS location. If no GPS is signal, it prevents the UAS from taking off. The FAA, listen to this. The FAA intends to restrict the manufacturing and sale of small UAS to certified compliant aircraft only. No unmanned aircraft weighing more than 0.55 pounds will be commercially available. That is not a standard remote or limited remote. No unmanned aircraft will be commercially available. So, how will they enforce that? That's the big unknown. Because Canadian people in Canada have told me that they're stopping parts at the border and not letting them into the country. And if that starts happening, this idea that, oh, well, we'll just ignore the rule. Zach Kegley, how will that work with indoor sanctioned drone races? Well, here's the FAA's answer. On page 8 of the NPRM, the FAA writes, all UAS produced for operation in the airspace of the United States would have to comply with its design and production requirements. The bold-faced text implies that the FAA will permit the sale of small UAS that have a label on their site saying, for indoor flight only. Is this the loophole? But how could that possibly be allowed, since that loophole would completely negate the whole thing? Everyone would just sell drones with stickers that say for indoor flight only, and the whole thing wouldn't matter. And that is exactly what the FAA does not want. That's the key thing to take away. The FAA does not want a system that relies on you to obey the rules and punishes you if you break the rules. That is the way the law currently works. You get into your car. I'm going to trust you that you are going to not break the law. And if you break the law, you can run a red light, but I will catch you and I will punish you. Your car does not have a logic that says, eek, I'm not going to let you run the red light. But that's not what they want. They want a system that prevents you from breaking the law in the first place. This is actually updated since I last read it. Since I last read it, the interpretation was, sorry, you just can't fly indoors. There's also the academic research exemption. And in the original email, pardon me. In the original email, they said, well, you might be able to get an academic exemption, but that's silly. Anyway, enjoy that. Squishy7 says the real question to ask is whether or not the FAA has the legal authority to regulate the sale of equipment. For example, these motors are not for a racing drone. They're for something else. I mean, you could buy parts, and those parts aren't necessarily made for a racing drone. And when you build the drone, I feel like it's likely that we will still be able to buy parts and build drones and fly them illegally. But Matthew Walsh, the academic exemption is not silly. The academic exemption, it just assumes that you would be able to get it, though, and I think that's a challenge. David Gilson, what else is a flight controller for? I don't know, David. I mean, it is a electronic device for the regulation of motors for the stabilization of I don't know. Okay. So let's get back to the questions. And in fact, let me get some super chats out of the way. I've been so distracted that Dominic Clifton says flying hovercraft. Yeah. Let's get some super chats out of the way. Todd Speck, thank you for $2. Holy smokes, Dominic Clifton is in the house. Dominic Clifton, one of the smartest guys in FPV, and frankly has been around the longest, and somehow has not turned into an asshole who we all hate. So many people, give them enough time, they turn into an asshole who you hate. But Dominic Clifton, still just as smart and just as beloved as always, and still just as innovating. Here's the other thing that happens to people. Dominic Clifton came out with Clean Flight. Ooh, big brain on this guy. Came out with the SP Racing F3. Ooh, go flight controller. You guys don't know how big of a deal the SP Racing F3 was when it first came out compared to like the NACE 32. SP Racing F3. Whoa. Now, having made such a big splash, it would be easy for Dominic Clifton to then fade into the obscurity of the past. And in fact, when Beta Flight took over and Clean Flight was like, what is that? Is anybody still running Clean Flight? Really? Beta Flight? I was like, oh, well, Dominic Clifton had a good run. We'll remember him fondly. But Dominic was like, no, I am not dead yet. Rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Dominic released the SP Racing H7. I'll just, you can just read about it. I'm not going to, shout its praises. But suffice it to say, it does a whole bunch of crap that flight controllers have never done before. Like, oh, that guy's out. He's still out there. Anyway. BK Racer FPV, thank you for $2. Is Josh drinking live? I don't know what I mean. I drink things a lot stronger than Fresca in live. So, Todd Speck, Dominic Clifton's brain is a supercomputer. Thank you, Todd Speck, for $2. Freestyle and racing drones, $5. NanoCam, Tiny VTX, DJI Assist, Pit Mode, AIO Quad possible. I feel like I might have just had a seizure. DJI Assist Pit Mode AI. I have no idea what that means. NanoCam, Tiny VTX, DJI Assist Pit Mode AIO Quad possible? I don't know what that means. Have I seen the new Johnny motors or any thoughts on them? Asks James Taylor. What are Johnny's new motors? Oh, right. He has a 2306, doesn't he? He went from 2207 down to 2306. What's your deal, Johnny? 2306 cinematic. Well, first of all, they're beautiful motors, of course. Luminaire makes good motors. Giant dives and full speed acro, high power and top end torque. But why? Why if you want top end, correct? Am I crazy here? If you want top end torque, don't you want a 2207 versus a 2306? I mean, I know that Johnny knows what he's doing. I'm not sure what he really wanted when he changed from the 2207 to the 2306. Was his last motor a 2207? Am I wrong about that? I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, his last motor was a 2207. Okay. Am I correct? Say it with me. Johnny, put out a freestyle edit, bro. I love you. I love your stuff with the F1 and the flying with the rhinoceroses and the monkeys in the jungle and the freaking going to Turkey. I love every single piece you put out. It's all gold. Dude, please just go to a park and rip one pack for us. Y'all remember Johnny's freestyle edits? Johnny, so jaw-dropping. I miss it. David Gilson. Good question, David. When FPV pilots come out with motors, is it really anything more than a standard motor with the pilot's name slapped on it? Because all you got to do is take an existing motor and just slap your name on it. So I'll tell you the story of my motor, and you can decide for yourself. I flew the EFAW 2407 and really liked it, but EFAW kind of went out of business, and nobody else was making a motor quite like that. So I asked Luminaire to try to make a motor that had similar characteristics to the EFAW 2407, so that I was like, well, if I can't... First, by the way, I went to EFAW, and I was like, can we do something together? I love your motor. I would love to help promote it. And if that had happened, it would have been the EFAW 2407 with my name slapped on it. But in that case... like, I wouldn't expect there to be any markup or anything. This is just a case where I would like to shine the light of exposure on a product that I think is really good. You know? And I feel like you say, well, it's just a standard motor with a pilot's name slapped on it. I mean, a pilot saying, I like this product, it is good for my style of flying and the things I do, it meets my needs. Then they put their name on it and they license it. Even if that was all that they did, that's still valuable because you look at who the pilot is. If you look at Ladrib, he flies in bandos, he smashes the crap out of his stuff. You know he wants his stuff to be durable. You know what his priorities are. So there is definitely some branding there, but it's also there's also some sort of like this motor fits my style. So in some cases they develop a motor themselves. They're like, well, can I have a bigger stator but with a lower winding and a weaker magnet? And the vendor makes something for them that they hadn't made anywhere else. Frank Citro, what do you think about the distance of the magnet to the stator? A lower stator gap or air gap, that's it. A smaller air gap means the motor is more efficient because magnetic flux drops off as the square of the distance. So, but a lower gap means that it's way easier to damage the motor and have it scrub. So I think motors are more durable when they have a larger air gap. Just finishing up the super chats. Big Data Pimp, thank you for $2. Remote ID on all UAS, but not on all manned aircraft? BS. Big Data Pimp, the FAA's argument is that because you could put up an ultralight right now with no ADS-B transponder and no registration, and you could just fly an ultralight with your own damn body in it with no registration. Here's the FAA's argument. You could take it or leave it, but this is their argument. When you fly an ultralight and you do something stupid, then you die and the problem solves itself. Or, remember the guy that landed an ultralight on the lawn of the White House? Guess what? When he did that, he got arrested because he was in the aircraft. So the FAA's argument is that drones need more regulation than ultralights because when you do stupid shit with a drone, you are not in the drone and there's no penalty if you do something reckless. And if they catch the drone, they can't catch you. They only catch the drone. I see where they're coming from. And I think that's a very difficult problem to solve. But I do appreciate the argument that when there is a person in the aircraft, you need less regulation because the person doesn't want to do stupid things that get them killed. Whereas with a drone, you DJAF, you just lose the drone and then, well, who cares? Freestyle and it's only money grabbing bullshit, says Ryan J. I don't, if it's money grabbing bullshit, it's money grabbing bullshit from the Commercial Drones Alliance, not the FAA. I don't think the FAA is in this to make money. I think they just sincerely want to have a safe airspace. They only want to make money in that they want to do their job and get tax dollars. But I don't think the FAA is directly getting money from this. They're creating opportunities for other people to make money, like the Commercial Drone Alliance. I think that two entities that are very, very concerned about this situation are the Commercial Drone Alliance, which wants to be able to have commercial drones flying through the airspace without you getting in their way, and the Department of Homeland Security, which is very, very concerned about the potential weaponization of drones. Imagine if before guns got popular, people outside of America, oh, you have no idea. Imagine if before guns got popular, the government could pass a law that all guns had to have a GPS transponder in them, and every time they were fired, they took a picture of whoever fired the gun and uploaded it to a database. Would the federal government have wanted that to happen and tried to make that happen? That's the situation we're in now. Because with just a little bit of imagination, you can think of ways to weaponize drones that are sincerely terrifying. And I think that is happening in other places in the world. We saw a story, I don't know if it was true, but like Al-Qaeda used a Phantom to trigger an IED. Or there was the time when there was like the assassination attempt on the leader of Venezuela with a drone and it didn't, I don't know. This stuff is, if I were DHS, I would be like, what are we going to do about this? Because this is effed up. And just to be clear, I don't think that putting GPS on every drone in the United States is the right choice. But I definitely see where they're coming from in trying to slip this through. We just have to fight it. We have to fight it. Stop giving them ideas. No, I'm not giving. First of all, we have we have 500 viewers right now, so it's okay. But the bad guys who might do these things. I'm not talking about some dumb kid in his dad's farmyard being dumb with a chainsaw or something. The bad guys who have already thought of this. The real bad guys, they already have thought of this. And the people who are trying to force remote ID through have also already thought of this. It's just us dumb yokels in the middle who are like, why are they doing this to us? We're just flying our drones and having a good time. We're the only ones who don't know what the real motivation of the people who are trying to do this to us are. And the problem with that is until we understand the true motivations of our enemy, if you want to call them that, until you understand the true motivation of your enemy, you cannot defeat him. So if you think that the FAA wants money, maybe that's not the right way to think. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Freestyle and racing drones, 50 letters max on your super chat. Analog, digital in one drone. Thank you for $2, freestyle and racing drones. Can you put analog and digital in one drone? I have heard of people doing it. I don't think it's a great idea. When I tried to do it, I had an 800 milliwatt Unify on race 8 and a 700 milliwatt DJI on race 1, and they just clobbered each other. It was a disaster. I have heard of people saying that you can do it if you separate the antennas. It's not impossible, but especially on a very small quad, it's not going to work. There you go. Dominic Clifton is you're on the right track there, Dominic. Perhaps the people that control the FAA want to make the FAA have rules that make them money. That I think is more right. Again, the Commercial Drone Alliance comes to mind. The Commercial Drone Alliance would be very happy if hobbyists were just kicked out of the airspace so they could go make money. And they have a lot of influence with the FAA. But I don't think the FAA is entirely controlled by these interests. At least I hope not. Once again, the Discord. I'm ignoring the Discord because it stopped scrolling. Sorry, Discord. The window stopped scrolling, and then I just don't even see what you're talking about. Shyam in the Discord. Shyam. When I activate GPS rescue, my 6-inch quad travels across instead of straight up when gaining altitude. And then when traveling towards home, it's tilted again toward the right, kind of going away from home. I think, Shyam, what's happening there is that your accelerometer is miscalibrated. The GPS rescue algorithm uses the accelerometer to tell which way to tilt the drone to try to get it to go home. And if your accelerometer is miscalibrated, it'll kind of be wacky and not flying right. Then it will trigger sanity checks, and then it'll fall out of the sky. So, Shyam, I would say check your accelerometer. Because this question is from a minute ago. There we go, Shyam. I'll get you there, buddy. Why do I wear headphones on live streams? Because all the cool kids do it. That's what live streamers do. No. The truth is that if I ever need to play a video, I need to hear it in the headphones so the mic doesn't pick it up in feedback. And also, I have a little audio switcher here that lets me quickly listen to what's going out over the stream so I can just check the levels and stuff. That's why. Now you know. P.S. Ariel, thank you for $2 in the super chat. Any recommendations for high altitude props and motors? P.S. Ariel, I think you should look at what Wara GP runs. Wara GP, first of all, if you don't know Wara, W-A-R-R-A, Wara GP, if you don't know him, he is an amazing freestyle pilot. He is a really, really good freestyle pilot and just He also has fantastic candy. He brings candy to every Rotor Riot trip he comes on. Mexican. He's from Mexico. He brings these awesome Mexican candies. So good. Tamarind. But he flies. They are from a high altitude area of Mexico, near Mexico City, I think. And I remember when Tommy, and I think it was Stingy and Tommy, went out there and did that Rotor Riot video. They said all the guys were using different props. I think that they use high pitch props. So that whereas we might normally consider like a middle of the road prop as a 5x4.5, they were all running like 5x4.8 and 50/50s because of the thinner air. Jackson Bamsey wants to know where the super chat cash goes. Some of it goes to YouTube and some of it goes in my pocket to buy frescas. Sorry about that. 507RC is reminding me to mention the UFDA Crew FAA protest February 29th in Washington, D.C. Yes, indeed. The UFDA Crew, the meme-tastic memers that ever memed about FPV, are doing a protest. Why is this not on the front page of your website, UFDA Crew? There we go. There it is. Okay. Should be above the fold, UFDA Crew. Get it above the fold. What are you talking? Okay, that's fine. That's my fault. Help save our hobby. February 29th in Washington, D.C. at Hancock Park, just outside of FAA headquarters. They're going to protest. And I'm so terrified that one of you jackasses is going to fly a drone and crash it into the FAA headquarters. And then it's all going to be for naught. Please, if you go to this protest, please don't be the one guy who ruins it for everybody. Just please. Okay. Abhanad in the Discord says, I have a Copus Cinewhoop with DJI FPV. Everything was fine until I connected it to Betaflight and deleted the Horizon mode range. Now it doesn't even take off, even with full throttle. Okay, first of all, let's just say there is no reason why deleting Horizon mode would cause your quad to not take off. Without knowing, without like being there to look at your quad, the first thing I would check is in the receiver tab, when you raise the throttle and move the sticks, are you getting full channel range? Are you going 1,000 to 2,000? That's the first thing I would check. When I say you try to take off and the motors spin, but you don't get lift, the other thing I think is that you have a prop on upside down. If you accidentally put a prop on upside down, it will make very little thrust and the whole quad will lose thrust. Sharik FPV wants to know, is the QX7 included in the ACSCST 2.0 BS? Sharik FPV, yes, all of the older ACCST radios are affected. Nobody is forcing you to upgrade, bear in mind. But there is a bug that affected some people and they want it to be fixed. So if you are not being affected by this channel lockout bug, just don't upgrade and you're fine. That's what I would say. Aza Ace Man says, I have the antennas at each end of my drone. I assume you're talking about analog and DJI antennas, and it works fine. That's cool, although I still would be surprised if you weren't getting some reduction in range. But if it's working, it's working. RC Ricky B says, the FAA has no power to enforce any of their rules. There are no FAA police. So first of all, that's not true, Ricky. The FAA has investigators. They have agents. Not too long ago, some FAA agents showed up at a flight field in San Diego and said, hey, can we see that you have your registration numbers on your quads? They just did it, I think, as just to show that they exist. You're right, there aren't very many of them, but they do exist. But what the FAA is doing is they have a law enforcement action program. It's called LEAP. And it is a way that they can get local law enforcement to enforce their laws for them, more or less. So they say, "Dear local law enforcement, are you confused about drones? Drones are so confusing, aren't they? Do you want some information about what the laws are? Here, let us tell you what the laws are." And they basically give this information packet to the local law enforcement. And then the local law enforcement goes out and they're like, "Hey, you got a SUAS for that USS? Your remote ID, is that active, buddy? What are you doing there?" Apparently these cops are Canadian. I don't know why I did that accent. And the cops come and they hassle you, and then they can't enforce federal law, but they can gather evidence and turn it over to the FAA for investigation. And that's what the FAA wants to happen. Shriek FPV says, "I heard you say you can't fly most tiny whoops with the new stuff." Well, that's not 100% what I said, Shriek FPV. Even with ACCST 2.0, you can still bind in D8 mode, just not D16 mode. So if you're flying in D8 mode, you could use the new firmware. However, I don't think you should. You should just keep using the old firmware unless you're being affected by this frame lockup bug. Nathan Knudsen says, "I have an RXSR and the signal cuts in half. I had tried 2 RXSR receivers. What do you think is wrong?" Nathan, if you're having an RSSI problem and it's affecting 2 different receivers, the problem might be your transmitter. So try a different transmitter. If there's someone you can borrow one from or something like that, or if you have a second one, test another transmitter. Tanzalini, you have a good somewhat budget, non-FreeSky transmitter pick. This is as good a time as any. We're at the 1 hour mark. Speaking of recommendations for a transmitter, let's go to fpvknowitall.com, which is my website, where I have the ultimate FPV shopping list. These are all the products that I recommend. They're not all the good products in the world. There are too many good products to recommend, and that's part of the problem. So I've whittled it down to just a few that I know I can recommend. And there's a section here, controllers and receivers. And my personal budget pick is the Taranis QX7. But I think the best value is the Jumper T16. And those are not supposed to be bit.ly links. I'll have to fix that. Thank goodness I have this time by myself to check the links on my website. Jumper T16 is a non-FreeSky, and, well, you can just read right here all the things I say about it and decide if it's right for you. Your Innate wins the, my patrons have a contest to see who can be the first to post a screen grab whenever I mention my website. This one goes to Your Innate, whose name I will always say forever as Your Innate, with a big pause in the middle. And if you don't understand why, say it quickly to yourself, and eventually you'll figure it out. Oh, Dominic Clifton is pointing out a potential fix for the RXSR issue. Low RSSI signal on RXSR. Let's see. Yeah, you could just have an RSSI problem. Maybe your RSSI readout is not wrong. These people are suggesting that, this is from July 2018, these people are suggesting that the RSSI reported by the RXSR is wrong. If you want to test that, you could just fly away until you get a failsafe and see. So, Jerry Shackelford, thank you for $2. Jerry, what's your opinion on Taro motors? Who makes those? Who makes Taro motors? Oh, Taro. Yeah. Are you talking about these motors? Foxtech, Taro? I mean, if we're talking about these Taro motors, these are bargain basement parts. I do not recommend them. I mean, this is, geez, this is a crime that this is for sale in this day and age. Look at this. Wow. For $150, you can get a 10 amp X-Rotor ESC, A 5030 prop. Oh, wow. And a CC3D flight controller. Ooh, yeah. Really? Oh, with bullet spinners on the motors. Wow. Ooh, 1804? 1804? Not even 1806? Are you joking? Are you joking? Yeah, no one should spend $150 on this specific thing. This is no, just take that listing down. Anyone who buys that should anyone who sells that is just bad. Don't do that. Are those the tarot motors you're asking about, Jerry Shackelford? John Larson, thank you for $5. What characteristics do you look for in a prop? How do you decide this is it? Thanks for all your help. John Larson, I usually try to match the prop to the KV of the motor to start with, and I think about my flight characteristics that I'm going for. In general, for a higher KV motor, so in general, if we talk about like 4S, for any battery voltage, there are a range of KVs that are sort of going to make sense. It's not that you can't go outside that range, but the kind of performance people want is within that range, usually. So for 4S, 5-inch props, you're going to be somewhere between about 2,300 and let's say 2,800 kV. Usually you're going to be between maybe 24 and 2,600, but on the outside, maybe 23 to 2,800 kV. And the higher the kV, the higher the RPM that the motor is going to try to go. The lower the kV, the lower the RPM. So then you think about what kV and prop you're going to use. If you go for a higher kV motor, you're generally going to need to go with a lower pitch prop, because the faster you try and spin the prop, the more amps you're going to pull. And a higher pitch prop is going to pull more amps. It's going to make more thrust as well. But if you put a 50-50 prop on a 2,800 kV motor, you're probably going to kill your battery and you're not going to get great performance. So when I usually start with like a 5x4.5 prop and either work up or down depending on what I'm trying to do. I seldom go below about 5x4.5. It used to be that freestyle pilots, at least, I mean, maybe they still do, but I'm speaking for myself here. It used to be that the wisdom was that freestyle pilots should choose high KV motors with very light props like 50-40. And I think today modern motors have so much torque and so much power that they can handle heavier props without compromising handling. So I'll be like a 2450 kV on a 5x4.5, and that's my baseline. When I was flying heavier quads, I would notice that they would corner really badly on that prop, and I would go to like a 5x4.8 or a 50-50 to get more thrust and better cornering. These are some of the things I think about when selecting a prop. So Popular Mechanics in the Discord wants to know, is the receiver in the Vista proprietary to only working with a DJI controller, or is it just an S-Bus receiver that can bind to anything? Popular Mechanics, it only binds to the DJI controller, not to anything else. Sam R asks, 6S 1600 kV, what prop? 1600 kV is a little bit low for 6S, but not obscenely low. 2400 kV on 4S is equivalent to 1666 kV. So you're at maybe 2350 kV, especially because 6S tends to have a little more torque, all else being equal. I think that you could afford to go with a little heavier prop. You wouldn't want to underprop that unless you're really going for longer flight time or smoother flying. So, Sam R., your question, 6S 1600 kV, what prop, can't really be answered without knowing more about what flight style you're going for. If you were doing kind of freestyle stuff, then I would probably want to go like for a 5x4.8 or a 5.1 by 4.6. Because I wouldn't want to, I would want that thrust. There are pilots who want sort of an underpowered, smooth freestyle quad. I tend to prefer a little bit more powerful with a little bit, I give up a little linearity in the throttle in order to have some pop and some punch and some speed. Jesse T points out that the weight of the quad makes a big difference in prop selection as well. That's 100% right. On a heavier quad, if you also put a high-pitched prop, you will get a lot more battery amps drawn from the battery, or watts, really. Think about it. Which takes more work to get going, a big heavy car or a little light scooter, right? So a lightweight racing quad can use higher pitch props on higher kV motors without killing the battery because it just has less mass. Okay. Thank you, John Larson, for that question. Siler FPV, thanks for $50 or 50 CZK. Check. I'm going to guess. Thank you for 50 of them. PS Ariel. We got you, PS Ariel. And anyone know much about the Radiolink AT9S? Asks Nick Hayes. Nick Hayes, Radiolink makes decent radios and good receivers. Radiolink receivers actually have really good range for a 2.4 gigahertz receiver. But the problem is that if you move outside the OpenTX ecosystem, it's just like there's no resources for it. So if you have a Radiolink radio and you like it, more power to you. But I wouldn't recommend that anybody buy a Radiolink, at least not for mini quads, because all the resources you're going to find when you go searching for how to do things are going to be OpenTX based. Super Deluxe wants to know why everyone's saying 500 milliwatts is enough for long range. Why not 1 watt? Shouldn't more watts be more range, better signal? Super Deluxe, I think you're talking about the TBS Tango 2. The Tango 2 and the Crossfire micro module that I have right now in my Jumper T16 is 250 milliwatts output power. LiveU FPV, who is an absolute mad lad, made a video where he showed how to mod it to output 500 milliwatts. And by the way, you can also do this on your micro module if you like. And people are saying, well, that's enough. The reason I think that that's enough is I fly on 250 milliwatts and I have never fail-safed. So do I need more? I guess not. If you're truly doing long distance, like 10, 20, 30, 40 kilometers, then you need a 1 watt or 2 watts. The other reason you might need 1 or 2 watts of output power is if you need that high frequency 150 hertz mode to last as long as possible. If you actually pay attention to whether you're in 50 hertz or 150 hertz mode with Crossfire, you might be surprised at how quickly it goes into 50 hertz mode and you get increased latency in that mode. So if you want to extend that 50 hertz or 150 hertz mode as long as possible, being at 1 or 2 watts will do that. But for most people, 250 milliwatts, 500 milliwatts is going to outrun your 5 gigahertz video by far, and you don't need any more. Let's see here. How do you get your drone recording on a PC? Asks Is the King. Well, I mean, I just take it off the SD card and I put it in the SD card reader. I think there's something I'm missing here. Ben Schuster has a Rush Tiny Tank, which is going into pit mode every time it's plugged in, and it's not set in smart audio. Ben, here's what you do. Go into the ports tab, disable smart audio, and then if it suddenly stops going into pit mode, that's what's doing it. If you have your VTX table misconfigured, it can force the VTX into low power mode. Check your power levels specifically to make sure that they're configured correctly and that they match. Anonix wants to know, it seems like some pilots build multiples of the same quad so they have another on deck when they wreck, while other pilots buy spare parts and repair on the fly. Do you have any commentary on why either of those is a better strategy? Anonix, I used to carry spares, and there was a time when I was doing a lot of traveling and making episodes with Rotor Riot, a lot, and I built 3 of the exact same quad, because my thinking is I don't want to repair quads in the field. Why would you put that on yourself? Now, if you can't afford to build 3 quads, well then, okay, more power to you. Have a spare motor. I would much rather pull out another quad and just go fly, and then fix the quads back at home in the evening, than pull out a motor and like be soldering on a motor crouched over a rock, you know. So my philosophy is, if you can, build identical quads. And here's the thing. If you build identical quads, you never have to have any spares, because the other quads are the spares. So let's say you go fly with 3 of the exact same quad. You crash all of them. You break an arm on one. You break a motor on the other. You break a camera on the third one. Well, guess what? You take the motor off of one. You take the camera off the other. And you take, you see, you could still have spares if you want to, but the quads are the spares. And that makes more sense to me. Michael Nichevsky, thank you for $8 Australian. Michael wants to know how my intro video was made. You mean the intro video? Oh, my intro video on my channel, the ones that, with the music and stuff, that was made by Guillermo Nespolo, was his name. He very, very graciously made it for me and gave it to me as a gift. I don't know in detail how he made it, but I think a lot of it was just a macro lens on a camera pointed at a screen, and that's how he made it. I'm not sure any more details than that, though. 6PDFPV, thank you for $10. Leven van Velthoven, thank you for €5. Would anybody here be interested in a webcam-based practice lap timer for indoor whoop racing? Windows only for now. Leven, I'm sure people would be interested in that. Lap timing based on a webcam, very interesting. Some modules have lap timing based on RSSI, which is pretty good for just informal practice. Although in indoor environments, sometimes the RSSI is so sort of scattered, it can be hard to get accurate results. Daniel Cole, thank you for $2. Daniel has a 5-inch Bang God with 1900 kV. What prop? I don't want to go too far down the road of props now that we've talked about it for a while, but 1900 kV is a little higher kV on, I assume you're running 6S. In addition, the Bang God is a little bit of a heavy frame, so because your kV is a little high and your weight is a little high, I probably would come back a little bit on the pitch of the prop. But here's the problem with that. The heavier quad is going to need a little more thrust to corner accurately. So this speaks to why weight is probably the single biggest reason, the single biggest thing that affects how your quadcopter flies. Heavier quads will corner worse. So then you have a higher pitch prop, and that gets them cornering good, but now you're killing your battery and your flight time is short. So probably I would be looking at a 5x4.5 or maybe a 5x4.8, but a 5x4.8 on 1900 kV is going to be hard on the battery. Depends on the weight of the quad, but Iceman Jones wants to know my favorite whoop style drone to whip around the house. The one I'm flying the most right now is the Mobula 6, because my Mobula 6 is the 1900K variant, and I find the 22,000 kV Beta 65 a little too fast to fly indoors without a throttle limit. Reading Durant's, thank you for $2. Caught up on super chats. How many amps do you draw during a hover? Depends on the quad. I feel like 6 or 8 amps is about right for a hover. Not much more than that. David Gilson, almost everyone at my indoor flying club has the Mobula 6. I got 25,000 kV, but I scaled the throttle to 50%. I agree with that, David. If you get the ultra high kV motors, you can just scale the throttle down. And I do it, I have it set up in my radio so that this knob here is the throttle scale. So when I turn it all the way down, my throttle's at 50%. When I turn it all the way up, my throttle's at 100%. Now, I don't want to accidentally fly with it like set weird and not notice. So I also have this switch set as the on-off. So when this switch is up, the throttle's just at 100% all the time. When the switch is in the middle position, this knob controls the throttle scale. And it means that I don't have to do any shenanigans in beta flight. If I get my tiny whoop out and I'm flying in a tight environment and I need a little more control, I just boop and turn it down and turn it a little bit. David Gilson, I have that set up as a tutorial. It's already on my channel. I'll show you though. It's not difficult. The tutorial actually has a mistake in it, to be honest with you. Which switches? Control warning. No, are you sure about that? Oh, wrong model loaded. That's the problem. Hang on. Here's my mixer. I don't have a camera to show you closer, but that's is there more to it than that? Yeah, no, there's a offset as well as a weight. Hang on. Here's the one mixer line. There you go. So it's the one mixer line is 25% weight, 75% offset, multiplex is multiply, and switch is SC middle. And then the other mixer line that's right underneath it is weight 25%, offset minus 25%, switch SC middle, and multiplex add. And together, that is how you do it. Yep. And now I have to refocus my camera. Okay. Hero Psycho points out that before you throttle scale, if you haven't done the 48K PWM, do that first for the Mobula 6. 48K reduces thrust. Are you sure about that, Hero Psycho? I thought the graphs I saw showed that it was basically making the same thrust just on fewer amps. But definitely, yeah. I mean, you can. That's the great thing about this throttle scale is you can just adjust it in real time, and it's no big deal. I take it back. That switch is S2 is the volume. S1 is the throttle. Yeah, anyway, whatever. P. Western says, do you know if you can set those throttle scale controls on the new Tango 2 transmitter? Yeah, P. Western, that's one of the great things about the Tango 2 is that because it runs OpenTX instead of a proprietary operating system, everything we're talking about doing works on it. Does the Tango 2 have a... Does it have a pot, a knob? I'm actually not sure about that. Where's images? Why is images not there? Does it have any knobs or sliders? Oh, wow. Does it not? That's interesting. All right. So if it doesn't have a knob or slider, I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like it may not. What you would need to do is like have a 3-position switch. And the 3-position switch would be like 100%, 66%, 50% or something. 175, 50. Yeah, wow. I had not thought of that until this very moment. No knobs or sliders at all. Really? Fascinating. DJ Pop thinks you can do it with the wheel. JD Jaramillo, did you see Ken Heron's latest upload? I have been talking to Ken Heron over email about his latest upload, so I am trying to help him. Yeah, I don't know how you would do like a slider on this one. Their goal, I guess, was to have nothing break off or be damaged in the bag, but I mean, I would like to have some kind of a slider. A 3-position switch would work, though. Wind of Fire IO, where did you get your newbie drone transmitter neck strap? Gosh, I wonder where I could possibly have gotten it from. I got it from Newbie Drone, obviously. Is it not in their store? I mean, I'm sure they just give the neck straps away when you buy stuff from them. If you need a Newbie Drone neck strap, you definitely just contact customer support over a Newbie Drone. I'm sure they'll let you know. Let's see here. 661 FPV says, I watched Ken Heron's live stream. What a clown show. Ken Heron, I don't know if you guys, I mean, if you watch Ken Heron, you probably know this, but if you're not a regular viewer of Ken's, Ken used to be a morning radio DJ. And if you watch Ken Heron's live stream and you're like, this feels like a morning radio show, that's right. Saucy Beast Mode says, what are your thoughts on the Flywoo Mr. Croc frame? Let's take a look at that. The Flywoo Mr. Croc. Well, I like the fact that it's $42, so it's not too expensive. It has interchangeable arms. That's good, but they have to have a good connection mechanism. Are these free bolts, or are they sunk nuts? It looks like, are these bolts actually sunk into the arms, or are they just bolts? If these bolts are not captive nuts, that's the term I'm looking for. If these are not captive nuts, I am annoyed and don't like that. They really need to be captive nuts. It does not look like they are captive nuts to me. Captive nuts will usually be round and have like a ridged. So if those aren't captive nuts, I hate that. If they're not captive nuts, then they're also not nylock nuts, and that means they're going to come loose. That's such a ridiculous oversight that I kind of find it hard to believe that they would do that. Let's see if we can get a closer look. No, sir. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is not a captive nut, is it? Is it? Maybe it's just not fully inserted. Help me. I don't know. Anyway, moving on from the captive nuts. Maybe that's a captive nut. Because how else? It doesn't have a screw in it, so how else would it be staying there if it wasn't captive? They must be captive. All right, well, we've spent plenty of time on that. The actual geometry of the frame is interesting. It's kind of got a weird geometry. It's a squarish geometry, but the front end is kicked way forward. And that's presumably to keep the props out of view of the camera. I'm not a fan of this split deck front design. I've never been a fan of this split deck design. The purpose of this split deck design, where you have a high plate here, is to allow you to fit a full-size camera, but screw it. Just do like Stingy did and just make it for micro cameras. So I'm not a fan. It is a captive nut. That's what people are saying. It is a captive nut. It's just that the hardware is not really well put together for their product shots. That doesn't bode well if the one that they grab for their product shots isn't like perfectly put together. But maybe they're just being honest. So I'm not a fan of the split deck design because I think it makes the whole quad weaker. Because normally you have the whole top plate sort of acting as, just tying the whole thing together. Whereas when you have a split deck design like this, now you've got this really sort of tall and weak area. And in a frontal crash, I think it's much weaker than if you had a single top plate. So I wish that this frame had a low deck front that just took micro cameras. This seems fiddly. And the only purpose of this is to let you fit a full-size camera, but nobody does that anymore anyway, so just stop it. These Standoffs, yeah. Yeah. How tall is it? It looks like it's not that tall. Front width. It doesn't seem to say how tall it is. It looks like it's closer to like 18 or 20 millimeters than like 22 or 24 millimeters. I'm a little concerned about whether you could easily get a too-high stack in there. I bet you could, though. You probably could. If you can't get a too-high stack in, then I'm not loving it. Oh, see here, this is the slam deck design. I see. So they also have a non-slammed design. So this one is like, it's just like so big. It feels like this wants to be a 7-inch. Is this a 7-inch? No, it's 5-inch. It's so freaking big. Why is it this long? Is it for the DJI Air unit or something, right? Is that what it is? I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know what's going on. Put some 7-inch arms on it, and then maybe it makes sense to have the frame be this big. But why is this 5-inch quadcopter this long? I know, to get the props out of view of the camera, but you could also do that by just going to an H geometry. So I don't love this frame. It's kind of a weird frame. People want me to look at the DJI version. Okay, let's see about that. That's the SL version. No, see, MC's Creations. Thank you for 5 Hey Eyes, MC's Creations. I was looking at the slam version, but I also looked at the non-slam version, and I didn't really like it any better. Here's the HD version. Now, this I've seen. This one, like, at least it makes sense that it's so long because they're trying to get the air unit into it. So, like, okay, you had a reason to do it. Now you still have plenty of room. But for what? No, it still doesn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense. This doesn't make any sense. Okay. Okay, guys, we gotta fit the air unit in it. And, okay, what else? Well, we're going to put the flight controller here and the ESC here. Okay, great. Now, what's going to go back here? Oh, that's where you put the VTX and the receiver. But we don't need a VTX because we got the... Oh. So again, why is it so freaking long? I don't understand why it's this big. Yeah. The other thing about this that I would change is the antenna. One of the problems with the DJI Air unit is the antennas pop out of the air unit. So the frames that I really like the design of press the air unit MMCX connector up against a standoff or in some other way retain it. So again, we could look at the Rotorite HD1 and see if I can find an image of how they do it. Maybe this image will work. And Rotorite isn't the only one to do this. Catalyst Machine Works also did the same thing independently, interestingly. Two people can come up with the same idea without stealing from each other. I know, it's so weird. You can see right here that they've pressed the MMCX up against... It's a TPU sheathed, so it's got some shock absorption, but the MMCX is pressed up against the standoff, and that prevents it from coming out. Well, the Mr. Croc doesn't really do anything to keep the MMCX from popping off. So, anyway, there you go. It's not for me. Nick Hessen says it's a great frame. Hey, more power to you if you love it. It's just the geometry of it's so weird. It's so stretched out. And I don't understand why. It'd be easier to work with. Aerodynamics are worse. You want less surface area for aerodynamics. To balance the frame, well, you've got the air unit sticking out the front. What's going in back to balance it? I don't know. Matthew Barnes. Hello, Matthew Barnes from Brisbane, Australia. Hello, sir. It'll be a great cheater quad frame. Maybe. You can change the geometry of the arms, I suppose. Ryan Cow, thank you for $5 in the super chat. I just got the Meteor 75 and find it's not easy to fly slow indoors. Lots of camera up tilt. I'm not sure it's adjustable. Throttle curve? Yeah, Ryan, definitely not a throttle curve, but a throttle limit. Just take the throttle limit down to 75% or maybe even 50%. especially as a beginner. That'll help you manage your altitude and manage your throttle. Definitely, if you're flying indoors, fly in angle mode, because angle mode, the quad will correct itself when you hit the wall faster than you can correct, and that'll help you. Normally, I don't recommend flying in angle mode for like freestyle or racing, but for indoor whoop style flying, angle mode is actually a really good thing. And then as far as your up tilt goes, you've got the Meteor 75. Is that right? Is that a thing? Yeah, I guess that's a thing. Why Meteor 75? Why do you want to go to 75? It doesn't. Okay, so the Meteor 65 has 2 adjustable camera mounts that it comes with. And I guess you need a second canopy too. But I assume, is the 75 the same way? I don't know about that. Does the 75 not have adjustable up tilt? Yikes. I mean, the up tilt doesn't look that extreme, so I think it may just be a question of, oh, you guys can't see what I'm looking at. That may just be a question of experience. Definitely get a throttle limit on there to help you manage the throttle better. Lead Sled 01, thank you for $5. My weekly thanks. I should just Patreon. Hey, Lead Sled, if you're going to give me $5 a week, don't join my Patreon, because my patrons are typically down at like the $2 or $5 level. Some of them are more, but very few people would Patreon at $20 a month. So if you're giving that to me during my live streams, just keep it up. Is it worth flashing 48K ESC firmware on 3-inch quads? Says Anthony Short. Thank you for $5 in the super chat, Anthony Short. I think I start all my quads at 48K, even though there is not a flight time advantage on the bigger quads. The motors are smoother and you get less mid-throttle oscillation. I always start at 48K for all my freestyle quads. For racing, where you want power and you don't care as much about smoothness, stay down at 24K, and that's fine. Maybe even lower that just a little bit. I definitely would flash 48K on 3-inch quads and see if it improves flight characteristics. It costs you nothing to do it, unless you accidentally brick your ESC like Stingy did. But what are the chances? Riding to Rants, thank you for $5. I planned on getting an 85X. With the new firmware updates to FreeSky, does it make more sense to just go Crossfire at this point? I have a Jumper T16. Well, I mean, if you have a Jumper T16 and you buy an 85X, you won't have any problems because those firmware updates don't affect you. The Jumper T16 doesn't run FreeSky, and neither does the 85X, so you're good. Yeah. Dominic Clifton, yeah. Michael Lundgren asks, Dominic Clifton, are you the guy who made Clean Flight? He sure is. He sure would love to have $1 for every line of his code in Betaflight from every user. Yep, that is the nature of open source development. I heard a story today. Actually, I'm listening to this podcast. What's the name of the podcast? Shoot. Hang on. I'll tell you guys what it is. It's a really good podcast. One second. I got to open up Spotify here. The podcast is called Reply All. It's a very good podcast. And I was listening to a story, a profile about this guy. And this guy created this software to do encryption. And he made the software open source. And then a whole bunch of other people built businesses around the software. They all got rich and he didn't make a penny. And he was real bitter about it. And I thought, that's such a familiar story of a person who puts their heart and soul into an open source project. And then other people come along and they build services around it. They make money and the original guy doesn't, and he feels bad about it. And I'm like, maybe this whole, like the Flight 1 thing isn't that unusual. But then I think of somebody like, there's Dominic Clifton, who puts out his code for free and sells flight controllers, sure. And you seem to be doing okay for yourself, Dominic. I don't know. But you're certainly not getting rich. Is anybody? My God, how do we give this cat money? Asks Vic and Air FPV. I don't know, Dominic, how do people give you money? I mean, you can buy his flight controllers, you yutzes. You could buy his flight controllers. He makes flight controllers, you dorks. Where's his website? Where's it? SP Race shop.seriousllypro.com. You could, I mean, I'm sure he would love it if you just sent him cash. But I mean, he does have a business model. Oh, you have a Patreon too, Dominic? Am I your patron? I need to check and sign up if I'm not. I try to give everybody a $5 patron. Everybody I find out about who has a Patreon. But yeah, you could go to his website and buy his flight controllers. They're good flight controllers. Off screen, I'm going to check if I'm his patron. I'm going to be so proud if I already am, but I'm not. I don't Patreon every single person because sometimes I just don't know that you had one. Now let's see here. Let's see here. How do I find you? Patron? No, I don't want to be on my Patreon. I want to be Explore Creators. There we go. Explore Creators. Let's see. Dominic Clifton. No results found. You get $1.99 a month. What's your Patreon? Clean Flight Patreon. I would say. Clean Flight. Okay, guys. Clean Flight. One patron, $2 a month. Well, you're about to get more. Wow, you only have a $10 a month level. I mean, come on. Don't be greedy, dude. Don't be greedy. $10 a month. Wow. Whatever. How do I don't want to be a $10 patron. I do $5. Okay, look. $5 a month. I'm signing up for the $5 a month to the Clean Flight Patreon right now. Hey, wait, why did it change it to $10? Oh, we'll take care of that after the live stream. Yeah. If anybody wants to support him, he certainly can. If anybody deserves it, he does. Sky wants to know in the Discord, Beta FPV HX115 or Diatone GTR 349 for freestyle. HD doesn't matter. Sky, I would probably pick the 349. I think that freestyle benefits from heavier quads up to a point. And the challenge with flying very, very light quads like a toothpick is they don't fling and carry their momentum the way a heavier quad does. They're also blown around in the wind easier. I would take the 349. Now, the HX115 is a great example of the toothpick class. And if what you want is toothpick style racing and freestyle, the HX115 is the way to go. But if you just say freestyle, I think more the 349 is the way I would go. How many people am I a patron to? I'm going to look, but I'm not going to show you. Manage my memberships. At this exact moment, I am a patron of... How am I... No. I said $5 a month, Dominic. I said $5 a month. Now it says $50. No, I'm joking. Updating my pledge to $5 a month. There we go. Let's see. Manage my memberships. Right now, I am a patron of Clean Flight. Still says $5 a month. Am I not able to get a custom tier? Clean Flight. Lee Schofield, I think that's Painless 360. A gaming YouTube channel called Many a True Nerd, which none of you have probably heard of. Well, maybe some of you have. UAV Futures. Sam Shepard. Blackman. This creator is no longer active. Oh, well, I guess I'm not. I guess I'll get rid of that. Blackman, I think, was a Betaflight dev. Let's Drone Out. Curry Kitten. Zoe FPV. Drone Mesh. Michael Rollins. Ciati FPV. UAV Tech. Bruce Simpson. Bot Grinder. Little Stellar Fox. And Micromotor Test Lab. And if you are out there and you have a patron, and I am not your patron, and it's probably just because I don't know you exist. So I try to sub everybody and show their support. My patrons are so good to me. I try and not Betaflight. Does Betaflight have a Patreon? I contribute to Betaflight over on PayPal, I think. Do they have their own Patreon? Huh. There's got to be a reason I didn't sub to Beta Flight. What the hell? They can have $5 a month too. Sure, done. You're right. I told Andy RC I'd sub too, and I didn't. Let's get Andy RC here as well. Andy RC. Yep. I told him on the last membership, on the last live stream, I would sub him. So he's got a $1, a $3, and a $10 level, but I want the $5 level. Can I have $5? $5. Confirm. Andy RC, gotcha. Let's see here. Clean Flight still showing $10 a month. Why does it keep showing $10 a month? I'm trying to change it to $5. No, it just goes back to... Can I not change it to less than the minimum? Oh, that's what it is. You can't sub at less than the minimum. Dominic Clifton, you just weaseled another $5 a month out of me. Okay. Interesting. I can't sub at less than the minimum, even for a couple, even for a custom. All right, who else has a Patreon? Go ahead, it's time. $5 a month. Except for Clean Flight. What do you think of the M9 gimbals for the X9D? It's okay, Dominic. You could add a $5 tier. My opinion, Dominic, if your lowest tier is $10, you're going to miss out on a lot of money, because there's a whole lot of people who would like sub you at the $1 or $2 level and they just don't even care. But $10 a month is a lot to ask of people, especially if they want to support more than one creator. And a lot of people are going to see that and they're going to be like, sorry, and they're going to leave. Andy Weiss says you should stop patronizing Sam Shepard. He died. That's okay by me. I assume the money is going to his family or something. And I'm happy to keep it happening. What's the deal? What is it? What does his Patreon's page show? He doesn't have any new posts. Yeah. What is his... I mean... Yeah. Oh, he hasn't posted since 2017. Yeah, okay. All right, well, maybe. Oh, show us a video of your last recorded freestyle flight. Well, I have one coming out tomorrow, and I have one that you haven't seen. Here, I'll show you guys one that I haven't seen. Ooh, Albert Kim. Okay, let me get Albert Kim. See, if you have a Patreon, you got to plug it. People laugh at me because I'm always plugging my Patreon or my affiliate links. You have to have a call to action. Otherwise, people don't know. Somebody emailed me, and he said, Joshua, listen, you got to stop, holding out your tin cup and begging people for, playing, and I'm like, no, listen. If you go into a store and, you just take things and go to leave, and nobody says, hey, are you going to pay for that? Maybe you just I guess it was free. If you don't let people know, then they don't know. Albert Kim. Let's get him in here. Andy Weiss, don't feel bad, man. I actually had forgotten that he had passed. I hadn't put that together. But it's, it's fine. Albert Kim definitely deserves my support at the $5 level. Boom. This is why I'm making less and less on Patreon now. I'm giving it all away to other people. Noisy Boys Garage. I think you should be on Fast S-Bus if you can, because it's lower latency. Nick Burns? Hell yes. Nick Burns? Yes. Got him. Okay, he's at the $48 level. Boom. Subbed. $5. Who else? All right. So now, how many subs have I got? Active memberships. Where's the total? It doesn't say the total. All right. Let's do. Somebody said, "What was your last flight video?" This is. I haven't released this edit, but I will share it with you, and I will get my live stream. Oh. I have to mute. I have to. I have to mute it or I'm going to get my live stream copy struck, and then I'm going to lose all my super chat revenue. There's not that much super chat revenue anyway, though. So, all right, I won't do it. I won't do it. It's only like $80 in super chats. We'll give that to the people so you guys can hear the music. Ready? My last freestyle video. Here it is. Unfortunately, Drew killed this spot and released a much better edit, but we're going to go to another spot soon, and he also killed that one, but he hasn't released the edit yet, so I still have a chance. There was no fence. There was no fence. There was no trespassing sign. So you can see where we were parked in the opening shot. Actually did get trespassed out of this spot at the end of this day. The guy called the cops, and the cops took our IDs and said, "Don't ever come back." So it's unfortunate. This is a good spot too. It's the first time I ever actually got trespassed instead of someone just saying, "You need to go." Anonix, I put the music on afterwards. There was no music for this flight. Yeah, so that will come out sometime. it'll come out sometime. This was it. That was the DJI. That was the Rotor Riot HD1. Bandalorian, which dumbass said I can't fly on Facebook? Was it the one I responded to? I thought that was a YouTube comment. Oh, man. Well, we are coming back. We're coming back to the end of the stream. 9 minutes left in the stream. A little bit of a low-key stream today, I guess. But thank you guys so much for being here with me. Thank you for the questions. Ciati is going to be streaming after me at 10 p.m. So if you guys want to watch him, keep the streaming vibe going. What are you going to be doing tonight, Ciati? Let's see what Ciati's doing tonight on his stream. Jamie Arquit says, please help my motors move a little when I plug my battery in, but they won't move in Betaflight or when I use my transmitter. I know they have power. Jamie, the first thing I would check would be that the motors spin when you raise the motor sliders in the motors tab. Yep. Am I quiet today? Maybe my volume's just down. What if I turn my volume up? How about that? Is that better? Oh, Ciati is going to be doing 5 giveaways, a Q&A, and Acrobat V1 repairs. Ciati's learned the secret to success. It's giveaways. And speaking of giveaways, don't forget that I will be this week on my channel. Tomorrow, the Beta 95X quick review is coming out. And then on Wednesday, the new product roundup and giveaway will be announced. We've got some new products that have come out in the last month. This is my attempt to do just a quick, just roundup of new products that you might want to know about, even though I can't do a full review of them. And we'll be doing a big giveaway, and the giveaway will involve the Tango 2 in some way. Then the Transtech Beetle. I was gonna do the Fox Zero Wildfire and the Eachine EV300, but I have to push that back till after the weekend so I can go to this parking deck and do the testing on it. So the Transtech Beetle, that's a little sub 250 gram, 2.5 inch quad with Betaflight in it. How much time have we got? 9:53 p.m. I'll give you guys another teaser. Hold on. This is why I decided to fly yeah, look, we ended up in a tree. Transtech Beetle is a 2.5 inch quad with a DJI Air unit in it. So it's got to be heavy as crap. How could it fly? Well, ask Alex Vanover. This is Vanover flying a 2.5 inch. 2.5 inch. So this is a little bit cheating because whatever Vanover flies looks amazing. But I thought it flew pretty good. And then Vanover and Drew flew it when they were at my house after they came up to Knoxville for this whoop race. And I was like, oh. So that review is going to be coming out this week, but of course I think you can see how it's going to go. Have you guys ever noticed that, like, the pilot, could you just not tell that's Vanover flying? Like, he's flying a 2.5 inch, he flies a 5 inch, he flies a 7 inch. You're just like, oh yeah, that's Vanover. Anders Martinson, 3D printing is the answer to your question about how to make your camera stick out more. You got to 3D print something. He's so good. Really, screw him. He's so good. But, you guys, even pros mess up. Did you see it? Look. He flubbed this line, and he rolled out of it. No one's perfect. Watch here, and... oh, no, I'm falling short. I'm falling short. I'm going to hit the treetops, but he makes it look so good, doesn't he? 661 FPV, this is the Transtech Beetle. I will be reviewing this on my channel this week, but here's a little teaser flight footage. I just can't believe a 2.5 inch flies this damn good. All right, so that's Vanover. He ends up putting it in a tree. This is Mr. Camden. No, it's 25 seconds. That's not the right one. I got footage of Drew flying it as well. No, that's... where's Drew's flight? Did I not get Drew's flight? This is Drew's flight. Is it? No, this is my flight. Is this Drew? No, that's Drew. Okay. He tries to do that inverted yaw thing. This is Drew flying the same quad. The Transtech Beetle. 2.5 inches. Not bad for 2.5 inches. That's what she said. It is not ducted, 661 FPV. Thank you, Brad Clark, for $10 super chat. Thanks for all your help and knowledge. Thank you, Let's Fly RC, for a $5 super chat. How do I tune my KK 2.0 board? Yeah, it's a joke, I'm assuming. With a time machine. Again, isn't it obvious that this is Drew flying? Isn't it just obvious that, like, that's just clearly Drew? Stock tune, DJ Dubs. I have not tuned it. This is exactly how it flew right out of the box. And these props are a little chewed up, too. I wasn't going to review this. They sent it to me, and they said, don't worry about it. Oops, don't hit the dog. Do not hit the dog on stream. That no one will ever forgive you. Hello, dog. Ah, which way should I go? I couldn't believe how good it flew. I really expected it to kind of be bad because it was heavy. But with a DJI air unit in it, pretty freaking amazing, to be honest with you. Anyway, so that's coming out this week. Look forward to that. All right, guys. A little bit of a low-key stream today. Thank you guys so much for coming out. The people who listen to this on my podcast, I upload this audio as a podcast to my Patreon page. The people who listen to this on my podcast are going to be like just... Michael Lundgren, how come your yard looks bigger in your videos but feels small in liftoff? Michael, I got to tell you, that's exact. When you fly it in liftoff, that's how it feels. I'm shocked at how closely they got the scale and the feel and the scope of my yard in liftoff to the real thing. That's just how it feels, dude. It looks big because you're not flying it, but the minute you're flying it, yeah. Yeah, he wasn't. Don't get on Drew. He was nowhere near the dog. It looks closer than it was because you weren't there and you weren't flying it. It was fine. We saw the dog. I shouted it to him. He went the other direction. It's all good. DJI has a mic for the onboard air unit, but not for the goggles. Yep. Well, Siati, go ahead and post that link one more time, and we will finish up the stream for tonight. It's been fun streaming with you guys, and I will see you next week unless I get the flu. Both of my kids have had the flu in the last 2 weeks, and so far I haven't gotten it. But if I get it, it's going to be this week, and then the live streams will all be canceled. But until then, fingers crossed. Hey, Siati, give me that link, buddy. Give me that link one more time. Jerry Shackelford, the Terra Motor. Sorry, Jerry, I didn't get to your $5 super chat. I apologize for that. I mean, are they still Terra Motors? Because I'm just not impressed with that company, dude. If it's the same company. Oh, this is a big motor. I don't know anything about 4114 motors, Jerry. Sorry about that, man. Siati, I can't go until you post your live stream link, dude. Yeah, unfortunately, when you have a sick baby, there's no like keeping it off you. It's really inevitable. But I've been trying to throw him at my wife. I've been like, here, you take him. Wash my hands, sanitize. It doesn't work though. All right, guys. Siati stream if you want to go check him out, and you definitely should. He's amazing. Not as amazing as me because let's face it, I'm pretty amazing, but he's not bad, and you should go check him out. I'm going to sign off, and I'll see you guys next Sunday. Unless I have the flu. Good night, everybody. Happy flying.